The following program contains the opinions of the host, guests, and call-in participants. These do not necessarily represent the views of this show's distributors or sponsors. This program may contain obscene, profane, or otherwise objectionable language. Viewer discretion is advised. Yes, it's the giant head from Minneapolis. Hi, am I glad to see you people. It's Monday night, September 22nd, 2025. It's the first night of fall in the Northern Hemisphere of the Earth. I'm Jim Peters, and welcome to another edition of Jim Peters at Night, episode number 277, if you're keeping score at home. And I was just doing some quick math just before we went on here. I think that means we're going to do our 300th show just before Thanksgiving. I think. I'm not sure. Anyway, nice to see you folks. I've had a really good weekend. I did. And I got a cat here who wants to run the control room. No, get out of here, man. It's like, this is not right. You can't be here. Oh man. Okay. Our guest tonight is Don Zorrro, our old friend, intelligence operative, and lover of women. Always has something interesting to say. Coming from an undisclosed location, can't tell you who he is. You know, he wears a mask. You know, and so his work is highly sensitive, and we can't reveal his real identity. But anyway, it doesn't matter. He's really good guy. And it's like, all right, come on, no, there he is. That's Henry right there. He's a very big cat. I tell people he's about the size of a small car. Yeah. Yeah, anyway, yeah. So Don's coming on. We recorded this afternoon, had a great old time as usual. We do this show live. If it's 9 p.m. Eastern right now, actually it's 9:02. We do the show live, and we always have, and I'm here live. But now the interviews we pre-record, and we pre-record almost all of them. When we started this, it wasn't that big a deal, but people are having more and more trouble connecting through the inner tube, and I think it's because this whole process is getting more and more complex. Even Don, who comes on regularly, been coming on for years, he got a new computer, and we couldn't get his picture at first. So I mean, if he had come on live as usual, it would be a disaster. It would have been a disaster. But I talked him into now. We're pre-recording him too. We're basically pre-recording everybody. So yeah, so he's gonna be coming on in a couple minutes here. Let me tell you who else we got come on this week. We got on tomorrow night. We have Eric Weir. He entrepreneur, financial analyst. Started a wealth management firm. He's written a book called "Who's Eating Your Pie: Essential Financial Advice That Will Transform Your Life." And I hope it'll transform you. I have questions for this guy because this guy has done a lot of stuff. So that's, I like people who've done a lot of stuff. It's good to be accomplished. And one of the things says publicist address. The publicists send out lists of questions. I always look through them. I hardly ever use the questions, but I always look through them. And one of them, excuse me, I'm not going to burp with the microphone on. One of them was, do you feel guilty about making a lot of money? Nobody should feel guilty about making a lot of money. We live in a capitalist world, and you should. I don't know what Eric's going to tell you. I'm telling you this right now. You should take care of yourself. You should not depend or wait for the government or anyone else to take care of you. Take care of you. And the best way to take care of you, do something. It's as simple as that. I like people who accomplish stuff. This guy wrote a book, and the thing is, okay, we have a lot of authors on here. I think 80% of our guests are probably authors, published authors. The thing is, have you ever tried writing a book? It's hard. Now, I've never really tried it. I've done some outlines. I've thought about it. I don't know if I want to. I mean, this show takes up enough time already. Seriously, writing a good book is hard. writing a book is not necessarily hard. It's easy to write a bad book. It's easy, and there's plenty of them. 80% of the books that are published in America, in my opinion, my estimation, are complete utter trash. They should not have been published. But someone does. Someone publishes. I'm not even talking about self-publishing. Real publishers. Someone publishes them, and it's hard to write a good book. It is. So my hats off to anybody who does it. It's not an easy task. So yeah, you want to make some money, do something. I don't know what it is, and the thing is, yeah, you might fail on the first try, or you might fail on the fifth try, or the seventh try, and are you better off for trying? Yeah, because the thing is, if you don't try, if you're not playing, you're not going to win. It's as simple as that. You know, it's better to play and lose than not to play. At least my opinion. Now, here's the deal too. I've never had children, so if you have a family to support, it totally changes the ball game. I understand that it does. I'm not going to sit here and tell you, oh, yeah, rah 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 rah. No. You got to feed the mouths, man. You have to do that. So maybe, if you're starting your life out, maybe you do, try failing 7 times before you get the family. But I don't know. Easy for me to say, but Eric's coming on tomorrow. And on Wednesday, Mandy Gunasekera is joining us, and she's an author, but her real claim to fame is she was the chief of staff at the U.S. EPA under the first Trump administration. And her book is called You All Fired, A Southern Belle's Guide to Restoring Federalism and Draining the Swamp. My generation used to call women like Mandy, we would refer to them as a pistol. So I don't know. I'm looking forward to talking to this woman because I get the impression she's kind of cool. So that should be interesting too. Now, here's the deal. I said this last week, Wednesday, Thursday. Or actually, we didn't do a show last Wednesday because I wasn't feeling well. I had a bad week last week. I don't know what's going on, but I'm fine now. I don't know if we're going to do a show on Thursday or not. I don't. I just don't know what to tell you yet. I should know by tomorrow. By the time we go on the air tomorrow, I should know. Well, I'm taking the following week off. I've had this long plan where the missus and I are going on vacation. We're going out of town, so I'm taking that's a week. What is it? The 28th through the 2nd, Monday through Thursday. But we're coming back on Monday, October 6th. We will be back, and I don't know. We're just starting to book October just now. Like I said, I don't know if we're going to do a show on Thursday, this coming Thursday or not. I don't. We do not have a guest booked. So it partly depends on whether we can do that. Partly depends on, I got a whole bunch of stuff going on. I originally scheduled that night off to start my vacation, but we took 2 nights off unexpectedly, unplanned last week because I wasn't feeling well. I'm thinking maybe I should make them up to you, the audience. I don't know. Any rate. Now, after we get done with talking to Don Zorro, we got a special Gymcast is coming up. That's I basically do a reporting of it's kind of sort of my own take on the news, kind of sort of. I don't know. It's not going to replace. I'm not Cronkite, and I'm not going to replace those 2 bozos on the CBS Evening News. And what is that about? Can you explain it? So you got rid of Nora O'Donnell for all you can say about her. I mean, at least she's a nice looking woman, to put on the screen. She's got that going on, if nothing else. I don't know, her pedigree as a journalist is questionable, but at least she's pleasant to look at. Now you got 2 guys whose pedigree is both questionable, and I don't want to look at them at all. Like, these guys have no chemistry with each other. They have no screen. I mean, it's like, my God, what are you thinking? How did they? It's like, what were you getting paid $350,000 to run the news division, and you came up with that? Really? Seriously? It's like, come on, get your crap together. Well, anyway, I don't do that kind of newscast. I don't. I'm not a journalist here. I comment on the news, and usually I try to find news that you haven't heard yet. And that's what I got tonight. I got quite a few things. So that's coming up after Don Zorro comes on, and Don Zorro's coming on in 12 seconds. Here we go. Joining us from an undisclosed location somewhere in the North American continent, it's our old friend and intelligence operative and lover of women, Don Zorro. Hi, Don.
Greetings to you. It's good to see you. It's been a while.
Yes, it has. Nice to see you too. Yeah.
I'm sitting bathing in what is the waning light of summer, huh? Today is the first day of fall, isn't it?
Oh my God, I think you're right. That never occurred to me.
Well, this is why you have me on the show, to make sure you're informed. Yeah, no, but the leaves are beginning to change colors, at least here in my undisclosed location. And it's I think it's going to be a beautiful fall, and I think it's going to be a very snowy winter. If the rain that we had this summer is any indication, I think it's going to be time to fire up the snow
blower.
The snowblower, and I was going to say snowmobiles, but that's okay. I'll leave that for somebody else.
Do you do that sort of thing? Do you have?
Hell no. I'm from Spain.
Yeah, well, I know
snowmobiles in Spain.
Not only that, that's a great way to kill yourself. Snowmobiles.
Sadly, in my martial arts training, there was a guy that I used to work out with and spar with and all that kind of stuff. He was on one of those wretched machines, and good Lord, he killed himself accidentally.
Yeah.
On one of those. It was awful. I got to say, when I heard the news, I mean, I'd never even considered that as a possibility because I was so new in the state. And when I heard that, it was just the saddest thing. I don't know what the last thing, that goes through your mind is when you feel whatever it is. I don't know whether he ran into some sort of horrible wire. I don't know what it was. I just didn't even want to ask what it was. But that's the extent of my experience with snowmobiles, is just hearing that. So I have absolutely no desire to
I've
get on.
This kind of snow scares the crap out of me. That's all.
You
can't see where you're going. I mean, it's like it's winter. Usually it's dark. It's not even if you're in the day. You can't see where you're going. You don't know what's going on.
Well, in addition to the many things that I had to get used to in terms of the way people express themselves out here in the hinterland, was this this advice that snowmobilers always got about overrunning their lights. And I said, wow, imagine a place where you can actually defy the laws of physics and go faster than the speed of light. I sign me up for that thing. I want to be able to go there. And eventually I kind of learned, he's watching his curves.
Oh God. I talk a lot about physics on the show, that really amuses me because I'm a dork. I'm a dork. Well, there's a lot that's happened since the last time you came on. It's been 2 months. We ran a rerun because at the last minute you couldn't make it. So we ran a rerun of you in your spot, so
just kind of going from most recent, semi less recent, but the murder of Charlie Kirk, I gotta say, was something that messed with me pretty bad. I've been following the guy for probably half a dozen years that he's been on. Really admired his ability to just take an argument and more often than not be absolutely right, just dead right about it. Or at least, if he wasn't right, throw a bit of information that a lot of us, whether we agreed or disagreed with him, just had not really considered. I had tremendous admiration for just that encyclopedic brain of his. Now, look, he had a lot of time to study, but so do most of us. And if the left can't even kind of get it up to just show a little admiration for this guy's ability to store political information, geographical information, biblical information, sociological and psychological statistics and facts. You know, there aren't a lot of people like that. This guy was an extraordinarily special human being, and this tribute that they had for him yesterday, of course, it's being mischaracterized. It was a celebration of his life. He was a very pious man. The guy was number one, all about faith. So guess what? The celebration of life that he had was all about faith. So all the people that just could not handle his faith and being able to hear the word Jesus every 30 seconds, you know, they're all ironically kind of going like this,
Yeah.
you know, but that's who he was, and that's who we're celebrating. And really, I knew it was going to be like that. Certain people in their speeches, I shouldn't say surprised me, but I was very impressed. Stephen Miller spoke fantastically well. He, I mean, I watched almost all of it. Up until I think I watched the first 5 minutes of Trump's. Then I had some place I had to go, and I couldn't hang and listen. But I heard some of it later. But Stephen Miller was very impressive, and the people that impressed me are the ones who are able to kind of go down these lists and just say what's on their mind in a very consistent way. Ben Carson was another one who spoke absolutely beautifully. Some folks got a little too impassioned. Jack Prosobiec, well, if that's the way his name is pronounced, I'm sorry to say, it came off a little phony to me. I know that he knew him, all this stuff. I know that passions are very high, but sometimes you can sort of tell when people are putting it on a little bit. That gives it more a sense of political rally rather than celebration of life to me. Right. So people like Ben Carson, people like Stephen Miller, Erica, I mean, what can I say about her? But the fact that she could get up there and say that she forgives the guy, whether she meant it or didn't, okay? Because I don't know her heart, you don't know her heart, the people listening right now don't know her heart, but whether she can just say it in order to set an example that I don't know that I could follow.
Right.
I have no idea, but it is like, talk about unifying message. Holy smokes. It doesn't get any more unifying than that. So Vance, I thought was very good. The people that came off as sincere were the ones that really impressed me. That Star Spangled Banner was pretty impressive. The guy who sang, I never heard about him before. I assume that he's just kind of a Christian entertainer voice, somebody that probably sings a lot of gospel, whatever it is. But that was it was very, very impressive. Yeah, so I think that there were, and then of course what really isn't pointed out was how phenomenally quiet 80,000 people could be all at once.
Yeah.
That the respect that was shown. Okay, yes, fine, they're fans, but we've seen all sorts of places where people have fans and it's rowdy. You know, I think back to a lot of these so-called memorial services for when Democrats have fallen to a bullet or something like that, and it's usually not a comfortable situation. They start frothing pretty quickly. Yes, these people were contained. From what I understand, everything was very clean, and what I mean by that was that there was no gigantic mess to clean up. The right has every right to to claim a certain, I don't know, a certain amount of rectitude in how they have reacted in the wake of Charlie's death, and where are the riots in the streets. And I know this has been talked about before, but really it can't be pointed out enough as far as
Yeah,
I'm
I
concerned.
agree with you totally.
Where are the stores being busted into? What it shows is, speaking of a lack of sincerity, what it shows is that the left is full of people that are nothing more than opportunists. That, hey, this guy died, let's go bust into a Target store. And let's say things the way they are. That's what a lot of people did. They just decided, we're going to do this. We're going to screw people over no matter what. So the right has every reason to be proud of itself.
You were talking about the religiosity of this gathering, and
yeah.
And my thing is, okay, so maybe you're not into Jesus, you can kind of just let it go. But on the other hand, there's a whole bunch of people online, I don't have to tell you this, that are comparing it to a Nazi rally. The thing this morning is it's the fire at the Rockstad. Yeah, familiar with the Nazi history? I don't know if you are.
Yeah. Only lightly, yeah. But well, go ahead.
The Reichstag in Berlin was burned down, I think it was in 29 or 30 or something like that. And they never caught who did it, but it's been very widely rumored for years that the Nazis set the building on fire themselves to actually have a rally point. I mean, and the thing is, and I'm thinking, this is just bullshit. I'm thinking, seriously, okay, you're not into Jesus, that's fine, but let these people have their due. It's like, why turn everything into a hate fest?
Because it's threatening to them. That's why.
Yeah. Yes, you're right.
That's why you'll have people that are on sidewalks. I saw a video just the other day of this black gentleman, and he had a Bible in his hand, and he put up a little perch for himself, and this woman came down and literally dragged him off of it. And I'm saying, really, how messed up are you that you just can't keep walking? Yeah. If it bothers you so much you can't keep walking, you're worried so much about the effect that this man's words are going to have. This guy could possibly change hearts. And don't tell me this doesn't happen, because it does. Yeah. People do wind up going about their business, doing something. All of a sudden they hear something, and they hear it in such an impassioned way that they stop. And all of a sudden they're thinking about other stuff. And the left does not want that. The right must remember this lesson and never be caught up in that kind of stuff. We're currently being accused of it with all of this business with what's his name, Jimmy Kimmel and Colbert. And of course, the left is skewing facts in order to make it sound like that. Trump has nothing to do with it. I don't care about the guy that he appointed on the FCC. This was an ABC decision.
Well,
this
right.
was ABC.
Brennan Carr, the guy at the FCC, he kind of complicated this because what he said did sound threatening. And I got to admit, it did. Personally, I think it did. But that's kind of beside the point. I had lunch with some people on Friday, and they were asking about this. So, well, you have to understand, whether you agreed with what Carr said or not really doesn't matter, because Kimmel was going to get canceled either way. People don't understand. And a friend of mine, the friend at the table, says, yeah, but why? I said, because his ratings suck, and they really do. They're terrible. I don't know if you've seen, I've seen the numbers. They're awful.
Did you see the graph comparing him and Gutfeld?
I put it up
in the last few years.
I put it up on Thursday night here on the show.
Oh, right. There you go. I mean, it's just like Gutfeld just moving up, and Kimmel was moving down, and it was, and then Gutfeld has surpassed wherever it was that Kimmel was at his height.
Yes.
At his height.
Correct.
So God bless Greg. I got to say, he's done quite the job of doing, of actually combining what the late night shows are supposed to be about. Now, granted, he doesn't have the crowd that Johnny Carson did. Okay.
Well, nobody will do that again.
Nobody will. Exactly. Nobody will ever be able to do that again. And Gutfeld's on cable. Johnny
Yeah,
Carson was not on cable. He
right.
was on regular network
There,
television.
there
So
were
he
only
was
there were only 4 television networks when Carson was did. I mean, there were only 4 channels. You remember
well,
when we were
that's
growing
true.
up? We had
Yeah,
4 channels. I had 5 actually. We had an independent station here in town. That was it. No,
right,
I mean now you have 500 sources and YouTube. You know,
right, right, exactly.
unbelievable.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, did you notice that CNN actually covered the memorial?
Yeah, not only that, this was in the news this morning too. Our friend David Strom over at Hot Air, he reported on this. On Saturday night, Abby Phillips, or Phillip, excuse me, I want to make sure I get her name right, on CNN hosted a panel discussion, and she basically admitted that they spent years canceling Republicans. It was actually pretty,
Wow.
yeah, it was actually pretty
Okay.
amazing thing. He was Strom was impressed, and I'm by extension I am too. And she actually basically said it. She said, "Yeah," because I mean, right now it is true. There seems in the backlash. There's a lot of conservatives now out canceling liberals who are saying bad things about Charlie Kirk, and it's actually happening, and it is. It is, but
Right.
it's like tit for tat. I mean, you can't complain. We had 10 years of this.
I mean, we could start a list that begins with Roseanne Barr
Yes,
and goes to
right,
Gina Carano, and then forget about that. Let's go now to companies
right,
that the left decides to. So don't even come anywhere near me
right.
spouting this crap about canceling and all. That's why I say that FCC or not, Trump or not, this is something that has long come due, and sadly it took the death of a really good person. Man, I'll tell you, it's tough to watch. Um, it's tough to watch some of these clips of him and his family, Erica and those 2 girls. Oh my God.
The guy was
Yeah,
only 31 years old. I mean, he
well,
accomplished so much in such a short period of time. It's really,
the guy was determined, but of course he's a failure because he didn't go to college.
yeah, right, of course. That's right.
Yeah, he didn't go to college to learn how to do all that. So the guy's got to be a failure.
Uh-huh.
So he and Steve Jobs can just talk about that, I guess, together.
Right.
It's God.
Oh my God. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
Wasn't Limbaugh another one who didn't go to college?
I don't know. I actually don't know.
I think that's actually right. Yeah. Hey, speaking of college, you know who did well, and his speech was a little tongue in cheek because he knew how Charlie felt about college. But Larry Arnn from Hillsdale got up, and he was one of the first speakers to speak about Charlie and just how we met him when he was young and how impressive, what an impressive young man he was and all that. And of course, he said, I know how you felt about colleges, but if you ever if you ever are thinking you might want to investigate it, we can talk about one. Of course, Hillsdale kind of holds. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Oh yeah, I do.
Okay.
Question: all your kids are well gone, right? They're adults at this point, right?
Yeah. They're adults.
And because I've been thinking about this, I didn't have any children. If I was going to send my kids to college, well, especially my basic deal is if I'm going to pay for it, you're going to go where I tell you to. Otherwise, you range for it. I was thinking, where would it go? And I thought, well, Hillsdale was kind of at the top of the list. They don't take any public money. They don't.
No, they don't. And they're very proud of that. And see, look at that. They somehow manage. Why? Because they've got a product that people are supporting. Wow, what a concept. Right. How about that NPR?
Yeah.
How about that as a concept? How about that public television that you have to actually serve the people that you're talking about? Oh man, there is so much Torah feces flying around here for these people. And one of the things that I learned very early on in my life, when I was on a negotiating team, I learned from a guy. He says, say what you need to say to get the job done, but never believe your own bullshit.
Yeah.
That's right there, primo advice, because part of being in your 20s, where a lot of these folks are, is saying stuff so much to other people that you start to begin to believe that it's actually true. And the worst lies that you can tell are the ones you tell to yourself. The right has to remember that, as well as somebody needs to educate the left. But right now, I'm in the mode where I want the right to not get so carried away with its own success. Let's just use that word, with its own progress.
Yeah.
That they stop. That they start to think that whatever they're doing is the only way. Always keep your mind open and start to look for alternate paths, because you know what? Sometimes you run into a dead end, and you want to make sure that you can retrace your steps and go another way that will get you to the same destination, but maybe with a slightly different path. So that's my wish for the right in this country, the conservative movement, whatever that entails, except for the extreme right. They can go jump off a bridge as far as I'm concerned, but the people who love this nation, love its history, want to see it return, want to see all the best qualities of this nation start to go forward. That's what we need to remember, is to not make the same mistakes that we've been criticizing for however many number of years.
I could not agree with you more, because I think one of our strengths is that we can actually admit when we're wrong. And I don't know if I know you know a lot of liberals like I do, and some of these people, and I think this is actually one of the problems, they have a personality flaw, and that is they can't admit that they're wrong.
Well, you know why? It's because we're married. And this is what we've been having to do for the last however number of years. Yeah, I know I messed up. You're lying.
Well, but I have to say,
we're used to it. We know how that happened.
There is some real truth to that. I mean, it's true. You know,
Zorro only speaks the truth.
Yeah. Oh, you got a call?
Nah, that's all right.
Is it MI6 or?
No. It's from she who will not be offended. And now I can't turn her off. God bless it. I turned her off. Oh my God, she heard it. She heard me talking. I gotta get out of here. Zorro has to pass.
Oh man, God. Yeah, but no, you could not be more right. I mean, we can't become what the thing we're criticizing. That would be, you know, I mean, the way I look, first of all, this guy who shot Kirk, he doesn't understand what he's unleashed here. Talking about you know, and I hate, it's a bad pun, but talk about backfiring. I mean, this is like, you know, he not only did he accomplish nothing, he's going to accomplishing the thing he didn't want to have done. You know, it's like, it's going to be, you know, I think I've been saying this for quite a while. I think if we don't act like fools, I think we could have a 25-year run here. So,
well, I don't know. Am I the only person that has been thinking about that moment in the Star Wars movie, the first release Star Wars movie, where Obi-Wan is fighting Darth, and he says, "If you strike me down, I will be more powerful than you could ever imagine."
Yeah.
Am I the only person that's thinking that? Because I have, that scene has been playing in my head, and I haven't wanted really to say it out loud, just out of I just didn't want it to sound disrespectful, you know, to Charlie. But man, it is really what has happened, and it has happened in such a decent way. Man, we are the freaking Jedi.
yeah.
As much as they want to delude themselves and say we're the evil empire, we're the Jedi now.
Yeah.
It is we who are trying to spread a decent message, you know, and I don't think anybody could have spread it more beautifully than Erica, honestly.
But you look at what's going on in Europe, especially in Britain. I mean, that's kind of like we're almost like small potatoes compared to that. That's
No, this is bad what's
yeah,
going on there. I mean, remember when the news kept telling us that there was no such thing as no-go zones, no-go zones, that, oh, no, this is just being manufactured. It's an Islamophobia, people saying, of course, you can go anywhere you want, in the UK. Well, no, it's not true.
yeah,
And the few places that you can go where you want. Well, look at Minneapolis. What just happened here? There was a bar, one of these little dive pubs. I forget what the place is called, that was recently bought out because its Muslim neighbors didn't like the stuff that was going on. They didn't like the music, the loud music, and the women that were going there, and the stuff that usually goes on in bars. Of course, the irony of them doing their call to prayer 5 times a day somehow goes over their heads. Speaking of having to listen to things, being forced to listen to things, but fine, be that as it may, it's happening all over. Dennis Prager, and I'm going to say it was after 9/11. So, yeah, so more than 20 years ago, Dennis Prager said, in 50 years, France will be completely Muslim. And of course, you had the chorus of people saying he's crazy, he's Islamophobic, blah, 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 blah. They're on their way.
yeah.
So is England. So
I gotta admit, Don, I didn't see this coming. I didn't.
Well,
Did
I
you?
saw that there was going to be, effect, but no, they're having way more kids than we are because, white people are just so about, oh, the earth, we can't populate it so much. And meanwhile, everybody else is going, step aside, hold my beer, because we're going to populate like crazy.
I know.
And your churches are going to be gone. Your synagogues are going to be gone. So I don't mean to sound, like I'm reporting on something. I have too many Muslim friends that are just decent
Right.
people that just want to live their lives.
But we've talked about this before. You and I are both first-generation Americans, and all 4 of our parents came over here. And the one defining factor about my parents, and I know yours too, because we've talked about this, is that is when they came over here, they wanted to be Americans. They wanted to assimilate. Now it's like the opposite. People come to the United States, not just Muslims, like everybody, and they want to retain their own nationalistic identity inside the U.S.
Right, and everything negative about that. Be one thing if you bring me the positive, fine, add to the culture that way, but don't bring me your crap. Don't bring me the parts of who you are that just do not fit into the DNA strands of this country. I mean, come on. I'm one of those people that is so corny that when I was a little boy, and I remember how we used to have to sing America, and we got to Land of the Pilgrim's Pride, land where my fathers died. I sincerely believed that, even though my fathers, died in a different, they died in 3 different continents. So, I feel like even though I was born here, the assimilation that happened through my family was something that I embraced with great pride and with much love. So I feel sorry for the people that come here and just don't get it. But you know what? We have a plan, and part of that plan is that we're going to really start to look at people that have nothing but animus for this nation, and weren't born here, and they're going to have to start learning that this is not the country that they were born in, the country that they crawled on glass to get away from.
Yeah,
sorry.
at the risk of myself sounding racist. I don't really care. The fact of the matter is there's a whole bunch of cultures in the world today that are 200 years behind us. And we just can't, it's like their human progress is real. And, that's fine, where they're at, but they can't bring that over here and expect, us to assimilate to basically their backwardness. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, and by the way, so look, talking about Charlie dying and all that stuff, when is the left going to address the elephant in the room? And that is the effect of this force-fed transsexuality on the minds of people who want to do harm, or who are thinking that doing harm is the only way to express themselves. Now, one of the things that's very interesting, and this just shows the dishonesty of statistics. Mark Twain was right. There are lies, damned lies, and statistics. And so what they did was they went over the last 10 years, the last 10 years, and said, look at all these mass murders. The transsexuals only committed XX percent, a tiny little percent. Fine. Now let's go over the last 3 years. That percentage has changed dramatically.
Yeah.
And these people will not accept the truth that is in front of them, because as the left has always been, always afraid to offend the wrong people. They're always on the wrong side when it comes to this sort of thing. They have to look at what they have allowed in terms of the people that are becoming transsexuals at junior high ages and growing up with all this stuff, and then finding that they're completely in the wrong place. And when they find that they're there, they have nothing left. So what do? They wind up murdering somebody because they got nothing to lose.
Right.
And add them then to the people that are just plain crazy, straight, trans, or whatever, and wind up killing beautiful Ukrainian girls, as an example, or go and shoot up a school full of children, and being smart enough, deranged yet smart enough, to do it from outside through the windows, so that they can't maybe get gunned down or stopped on the way in. I'll tell you, this world is as a friend of mine used to say, is just spinning way too fast for me to be able to keep my feet stable. And we have to slow it down. We have to slow it down. And this is where the whole religion thing comes back in.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I think one of the most wonderful parts of religion is when you stop to pray. When you stop to pray, you're stopping. You're stopping. You're casting all the other stuff you need, that you think that you need to do.
That's a really good point. I got to admit, I never thought of that. You're absolutely right.
You're stopping all of the stuff that you think is so valuable, and then
that's probably half the value of it. Now that I think about it.
Yeah. When you're praying, you're generally not shooting anybody, except for that cool guy in Saving Private Ryan, the sniper. Man, I love that guy. It's just like, God, my dear Jesus has I do my work. This guy gets all the Nazis.
I want to ask you though, and I ask a lot of people on the show, not a rhetorical question. So, you're talking about all these, and basically that we are training our youth kind of to be crazy. But then the real point is why? Why is this happening? It's and there's a lot, and I have had people on the show that the answer seems to be usually, well, they want to destroy society. And then I'm trying to think, well, why do they want to do that? I don't really understand.
The reason they want to destroy society is because they think that other stuff will work better in its place. Look at all the people who espouse communism. What do they always say? Well, it never got a really good chance. It was never
done right. Right. That's right.
And that's the arrogance of the position. Okay, let's see. North Korea didn't get it right. China
Right.
didn't get it right. I guess that's why China is going to a more capitalist system, like Vietnam is. Cuba, who is trying to become more capitalist, but they're being controlled. No, I don't want to hear it. They just, grasp on to other stuff because they can't abide the idea that they might be wrong.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say. It gets back to what I was saying. They kind of come to terms with the fact that they're wrong. That's right. Yeah. I've always said on the list of people I want to interview, I think maybe at the very top is probably George Soros. I don't understand what drives this guy. I don't.
No, nor do I. Yeah, it's a good question. I have never thought about that. I've always thought about what he does, but you bring up a very good question. Why?
Yeah. And especially a guy who made, zillions of dollars off a capitalist system and then basically wants to destroy it. It makes no sense at all. I can't tell if he's just colossally emotionally stupid or, if there's some grand scheme of his here, or I really don't. I don't know if he'd ever answer the questions, honestly, but I'd love to talk to him. I really would. It's like, So another thing that happened this morning, you'll find this funny. Oh, is she still calling?
I feel the ball and chain even harder today. It just keeps pulling me away from the desk.
I
that was actually somebody else.
I thought you'd find this interesting. Greta Thunberg got thrown out of the board of the directors of this Gaza flotilla thing. So she literally got thrown off the boat. Literally.
They voted her off the island.
They voted her off the boat. That's right. They did. Unbelievable.
That's excellent. That's excellent. Did you hear why they did that? What in particular?
No, they're not releasing. There has been a disagreement apparently, but they aren't releasing what it is. No, they aren't. And the guy, this is really funny. The guy at I'm going to link to this in a second. The guy at Breitbart described her as, what was it? Swedish professional protester. That amused me.
I mean, she's been at that for a while.
Yeah, so, and then of course, she started in the climate change thing, and then and now Al Gore is back on his high horse about the climate change thing.
Oh, is he really? There's another one. There's another one who can't admit he was wrong.
That's right. No, he can't. He can't admit he was wrong. I had Mark Morano, the guy from Climate Depot, on the show, and we were talking about the fact he can't. Him and John Kerry cannot admit that they're wrong. They can't.
It's so simple. It is really so simple. Yes, there's something going on. There is a change, and it's fluctuating. The trend is not precipitous. Number two, they have yet to prove that it is anthropogenic. Is that the right word? That we're the ones that are causing it.
Oh, right. No.
I just. God, find a hobby.
Yeah, really.
Buy a Lego set. Get some paints, get a canvas or something like that. But really, the world is so tired of you being bored. Yeah. So find something to do. Leave the rest of us the hell alone, and just let us live our lives.
You look at Gore. He's the epitome of somebody who's failed upward. I mean, the guy's basically never really accomplished anything. And yet he keeps making more and more money, and it's like hilarious. I mean, this pays off for him. I think that's the reason he keeps doing it. That's what Morano said on the show. He says, Gore's, this is basically his job, and it's working for him. So what the hell, But it's crazy.
Yeah, he still has people that are listening to him.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Though there's no proof. Not only is there no proof that humans are causing the global warming, it's actually the opposite. There seems to be a lot of evidence that we have nothing to do with it. So, I don't know.
Yeah, no, everybody's ignoring this gigantic gas ball called the sun.
That's right.
Up there that has these solar flares, and then sometimes it doesn't have the solar flares, and it's reflective. It's reflective of what happens here. But look, I never laughed louder than the day that here there was a one of these climate rallies that was going to happen in St. Paul, and it got canceled because there was this gigantic snowfall, and it was like butt ugly cold on the same day. And I think my arm just got worn out from just going, yeah.
It's hard to live in the upper Midwest and buy any of the shit.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I said, no, I think you're trying to sell the coals to Newcastle here. I'm sorry. So
the other thing that's happening is that, it appears that Trump has arranged for a consortium of U.S. billionaires to buy TikTok. And
yeah, I saw that. That's interesting. So we're gonna be the ones responsible for destroying the minds of our kids now instead of the Chinese.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right. But here's the interesting thing about
pride of ownership in that, I suppose.
You're not releasing a lot of details, but Charles Gasparino, who writes for the New York Post, he said that apparently the way this is going to work is that we will own the company, and we being Americans, and we will own the data, but the actual algorithm that drives the thing, we're going to lease it from the Chinese. So they get to update it. So I don't know.
Nothing like making it better, right? Because it's just we can destroy their minds faster. I mean, time is money. Let's go. We got a lot of minds to run here.
That's right. Although, Don, have you ever been on TikTok? Have you ever been on it?
No, okay, I've just seen it, but on Twitter.
Now I have to tell you, we started posting shorts of our show here on TikTok, and we put a short up in 1 hour, over 1,000 people watched it. The numbers are just staggering.
Yeah, but they're all degenerates.
Okay. Well, they're watching you.
Put that up.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, if you say they're watching me, well, I just proved the point, didn't I?
Yeah, and we have to end with this because this is very important to you. So a British study did a study of 400,000 adults in Europe and the United States, and out of 400,000, it turns out to about 4,000 or 1% of them were adults who have never had sex in any form whatsoever. And they tried to figure out what these people had in common, and it turns out, oddly enough, they're generally highly educated. And you who can't relate, I know you can't relate to your own virginity because
no. They found out way too late that sex could lead to babies, and I say, no, not gonna have any of that. So fine. Look, the left is already on track to just kind of not to. How do I say this?
How do you say it?
Yeah, of just basically not screwing themselves out of existence, and that's fine with me. They're the ones who believe that having kids is going to contribute to the world turning upside down, inside out, whatever. So they're not going to breed.
Yeah,
your terms are acceptable.
Yeah, that's right.
Carry on.
So what's in your near future? You got vacation coming up, or what do you got going on?
My near future is carrying on with more of the things that interest Don Zorro, and fighting for right, getting out and cutting the legs off of nonsense. And hey, people can always find me on Twitter. Look for Don Zorro on Twitter.
Do you know what's your handle? Do you know? Is it just Don Zorro? Is it
Don Zorro? Yes. Yeah. They can find me there if they want to watch some of the content. Some of the stuff I put up.
I didn't know you were on Twitter. I didn't know that.
Well, I've been holding it for the right time. Such a time as this.
We'll have to put a link up in our blog. So
all right. Sounds good.
And you will be on the shorts on TikTok, and that's on YouTube too. So that we put the shorts on there too. But I'm just
I'm gonna get going because Mrs. Zorro is about to walk in, and she's gonna have my ass. I'm sorry. This may be my final appearance.
All right, Don. Thanks for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for asking, and to all of you.
Yeah, we'll see you. That's Don Zorro, always of good humor. Guy makes me laugh. I enjoy his company. I enjoy his presence. I enjoy what he has to say. I'm glad he can join us. That's fun. A lot of fun. This is part 2 of our show. I'm Jim Peters. This is Jim Peters at Night, and this is the Jimcast. I didn't know what else to call it. Don't give me a hard time. I didn't know what to call it. So I'm going to talk about the news. I'm going to talk about stuff maybe other people don't talk about. And that's kind of the point of this whole thing. You don't hear this anywhere else, or probably don't. Hopefully, maybe not. First thing I need to talk about again, I ended the show last Thursday about this, is Jimmy Kimmel. And man, I'm kind of getting tired of this, but the thing is, there have been developments. So you probably know, I don't know if you've been around this afternoon, around 4 or 5 o'clock Eastern time, Disney, ABC said that Kimmel is going to be back on TV tomorrow night. That's Tuesday night. Okay, fine. That's great. Well, about an hour before we went on the air here, around 8 p.m. Eastern, Sinclair Television Networks, one of the 2 major ABC affiliate owners, they own television stations that are affiliates to the ABC television network, have said they're not going to run it. They're going to say, they said the same thing they said before, and that is, we don't care if he's coming back on. We're not going to put it on. So now it appears they're going to put Kimmel back on TV anyway, but that'll cut out about 20% of their affiliates, and some of the biggest ones too. Like the Washington, D.C. ABC affiliate will not be carrying the show. The other big owner of ABC stations, or actually nationwide of all stations, is a company called Nexstar. They're the biggest owners. They own about 220 stations, I think, and Sinclair owns about 200. And also the other thing is Nexstar is merging with Tegna, and they own a bunch of stations too. They're the former Gannett affiliates. They renamed themselves. And so there's a lot of people think that Nexstar is trying to court the favor of the administration by blocking them. So Nexstar has not made any announcement either way, but Sinclair has already said they're not putting the show back on. They already said that. So now my prediction here, and I said this on Thursday, and I'm still saying it, is no matter what happens, sooner or later, Jimmy Kimmel will be off the air, because at the end of the day, his ratings are terrible. I mean, nobody's watching this. That's the thing. So I put a graph up on Thursday, and I probably should have loaded it up again. I didn't. But for all 3 of these shows, that'd be him, Colbert, and Fallon, all 3 of them in the last 10 years have lost roughly 80% of their viewers, roughly 75 to 80%. Now, that's also, I saw a statistic about Kimmel specifically, what's called the demo, which is adults 25 to 54, which is the primary market advertisers are going for, the primary swath of the public. And in the last 10 years, that figure for Kimmel has dropped 76%. And since the beginning of this year, or actually the beginning of Trump's second term, in the last 9 months, it's dropped another 40%. I mean, nobody's watching this. And so at some point, now, supposedly we know this because of public figures, that CBS is losing at least $40 million a year on Colbert. And from what I understand, Kimmel has at least, if not more, employees. And his ratings are only half as high as Kimmel's or Colbert's. So, I mean, if you do any sort of math at all in your head, they're losing a ton of money, probably well over $50 million a year putting this on. And I don't think, it doesn't matter. And then on top of that, there's just the proof that what people were saying. Everyone was saying, it's freedom of speech. It's freedom of speech. And I explained on Thursday, well, there's no freedom of speech here. It's a commercial television network. It's whatever your employer says you can say, So if they're okay with him talking smack, he can talk smack, and if they're not, they're not. And the network has to appeal to the affiliates. And also, I want to point out, I said this on Thursday too, the way this works out. ABC as a broadcast network does not need a license from the FCC, the Federal Communication Commission, but the affiliates do, and they each need a separate license. So if you have 40 ABC affiliates for the Sinclair Company, each 40 of those television stations has a separate license with the government. And why do they have a license? Is because broadcast spectrum, that is the frequencies that you broadcast over the air, are finite. What happened years ago, I mean, you have to go back literally 100 years in the early 1920s when radio started. Radio was kind of like the internet was in the 1990s. That is, still is. Anybody can put up a website, and in the 1920s, anybody could start a radio station. Now, you had to know how to do it, and you needed the money, but still, anybody could do it. You didn't need any permission from the government at all. But what happened was there's only so many frequencies that you can broadcast radio on, and they all got crowded as hell to the point where you couldn't get any one station in like any metro area. And the government had to set them, no, we got to sort this out. So then they started to assign frequencies, but the number of frequencies available is finite. And that's why in cable television, they don't need that, because there's infinite spectrum available through the coax cable and on the internet, intertube too. Although, I mean, I really hate to say this, but there's an old geezer named John Dvorak who writes for PC Magazine and has for like 20, 30 years. And he said years ago, at least 15 years ago, but I have a tendency to agree with him. He said that at some point, you probably need a license to put up a website just because the government will want you to. Technically, it's not necessary. It isn't. But technically, the licenses are necessary to broadcast over-the-air television. It is. So ABC does not need a license, but they have to access to their affiliates. And if their affiliates won't carry a television show, they're screwed. So this whole thing is like, I still contend that eventually Kimmel will be off the air. But people were saying, getting back to what I was talking about, people were saying that, it's kind of proof that this whole little episode is proof of the fact that the Trump administration did not pressure Disney, because if they did, nothing's changed. Why would Disney put it back on? If they're trying to appease Trump or Brennan Carr, or anybody at the FCC or that sort of stuff. And they're right. Why? It's kind of proof. So yeah, I contend that eventually, eventually probably fairly soon too. I think. I still think, or they might just let his contract run out. I know his contract does expire. I think this spring or something like that. That they just won't renew it, something like that. There's one other thing I want to explain to you too, and I used this on Thursday, and I got my terms a little wrong about the equal time doctrine. It wasn't until I was wrong about that. It's actually the fairness doctrine. Until 1987, you had to give opposing, if you were on the radio or television, but still at that time was radio was most of the opinions were on radio, as they still are. I guess, unless you're watching Fox News or MSNBC, or I just contradict myself. I don't know what I'm talking about. Anyway, if you were on broadcast spectrum, radio or television, until 1987, if you presented a point of view, if anyone demanded to broadcast the opposing point of view, you had to put them on. Now, the Reagan administration killed that, and that allowed basically contemporary talk radio to exist. The first person who took advantage of that was Rush Limbaugh, and I mean, he was literally the first. He was broadcasting at a radio station in Kansas City, and he started his program 3 hours a day, 15 hours a week, where he basically bashed liberals. And no one had ever done that before. And he couldn't have done it unless they changed the rule or changed the law. And that was called the equal time law. No, I'm getting strong again. That was the fairness doctrine. It was written in 1987. The equal time doctrine still exists. That was initiated in 1934, and that says if you have a political candidate on your radio or television station, you have to have their opposition on the opposing candidate on too for the equal amount of time. Either they're debating, they're on together, or if they're on separately, you have to give them the equal amount of time, and that's why it's called equal time. That still exists, and I didn't know they were different. I didn't. I screwed that up. My apologies on that. But the fairness doctrine was rescinded, and the fairness doctrine basically created modern talk radio because there's a danger here. And Ted Cruz, he's been really adamant about that this weekend. He did podcasts about this, about the fact that Brendan Carr, the commissioner of the Federal Communications Commission, should not have said publicly to Disney, we can either do this the easy way or the hard way. And he said, well, that's basically like the mafia. You're making, and I said that too. I was very conflicted about that statement. I said conflicted. Cruz was actually angry. He said, you can't do this. It's like the mafia, and you're threatening people. And then, because his point of view, and he's very, very right about this, is that if we do this to the Democrats, as soon as they're in power, they're going to do it to us. And he's right. He's right. Because right now, like I said, with the fairness doctrine rescinded, we have modern talk radio. And the reason it's not that no one's ever stopped liberals from competing in talk radio. It's just liberals fail. I mean, it's tried over and over again. I know that nationally, only Tom Hartman and Stephanie Miller are the only two liberal talk show hosts I know that have been even remotely successful. Liberal talk radio doesn't work because people aren't interested in listening to it. It's as simple as that. It's tried over and over again. So we corner the market on that mostly because there's an audience for it. It's not that no one stopped liberals from doing it. Matter of fact, the Air America, which was the liberal talk radio network that was started in the 1980s or 1990s, I think it was actually, in terms of ratings, quite successful. But they couldn't monetize it because they're liberals and they don't know how to run a business. I mean, it's really stupid. Al Gore owned that, or at least he was one of the owners, and they couldn't monetize it. It's like nuts. And they said, well, nobody wanted to buy commercials on liberal talk radio. I just do not believe that. There's so many liberal people that want to, that I do not believe, and their ratings were so good. So it worked then, but ever since then, every time it's tried, nobody's interested in listening or watching. So anyway, Cruz is absolutely right. That was my, I'm a mealy mouth and, lack of a better term, pussy. And I said that Brendan Carr should not have said that because it wasn't necessary. They were going to pull Kimmel off the air anyway, and by saying that, he just muddied the waters and made the Trump administration look bad. And so now it turns out they're putting it back on, and people say, well, what happened to the pressure from the Trump administration? Well, there isn't any. That's the reason that it's like it was all bullshit. So at any rate, that's where we're at on that. So Kimmel is technically going back on TV on Tuesday, but a good number of people in the country won't be able to see him. So it'll be really interesting to see what happens. I predict that by summer, if not sooner, he will not be on television. That's my prediction. Now, meanwhile, you think, okay, I spent how long did I been talking about that? What, 10, 15 minutes? Meanwhile, World War III is starting. So the Brits have told Russia, Russia jets are now buzzing British airspace, and apparently for no particular reason. It looks like, and the Brits have warned the Russians that they will start to quote unquote confront. That's the word they're looking for. They're going to confront their aircraft if they keep doing this. I'm starting to think that Putin does not give a shit anymore, and he's going to start bombing people. I think he might be out of control, crazy, Hitler-like. Okay, so Trump is Hitler. No, Trump is not Hitler. Putin is Hitler. And if this could be really, really serious. I think I got to get Jonathan Lockwood, our military expert, on here in the next few days. Well, unfortunately, I'm taking next week off. But I think we need to have him on because we need to talk about this because This is not a good sign at all. It appears Putin is basically out of control and or maybe lost his mind. I don't know what he wants. Nobody seems to know what he wants. Trump thought from his first term that he could rationalize, he could reason with Putin. And as Bill O'Reilly has said, has come to the conclusion, and I totally agree with him, that what he's learned in the last 6 months of his second term is that in those 4 years, Putin has changed, and Putin is now, he's irrational. And it's very, very hard to negotiate with an irrational person because you don't know what they want. And maybe they don't know what they want either. This whole Ukraine thing, now, I had Lockwood is one of the three guys on the Ukraine show, and we had them on, they were on here last week. And the thing about the Ukraine show, the reason that show with those three guys is getting so much buzz is because one of the three guys, Ivan Kurchenko, is actually in Ukraine. He broadcasts from Ukraine, from Kiev. And the other guy, Sasha Starr, he's in Canada, Toronto, but he's a Ukrainian too. He's from Ukraine. So, and then you got Lockwood is the third wheel, and Lockwood is a former U.S. Army colonel and a military strategist par excellence. They use his book as a textbook at Annapolis, and those three guys convinced me. I talked to them for 45 minutes, and they have convinced me that the common wisdom here in the U.S. that we have to negotiate a peace with Russia simply won't work, because he said they're all convinced that Putin will never stop. In other words, if there's a ceasefire or they quote unquote end the war, at some point Putin will pick it back up again, because why not? And the way it's looking, I'm starting to think they're right. I don't think Putin will quit. Why would Putin quit? He's got a good deal of money. He's got a good deal of people. They haven't burned out either yet. And it's amazing how well a fight that the Ukrainians have put up. I mean, everyone thought this was going to be over in 2 weeks, and we're 4 years into this, and Ukrainians putting on a pretty good show. They are. I mean, and they talked about it during the broadcast about the fact that the ground troops of Russia are woefully inept. I mean, it's like, so you think Russia is one of the three major superpowers in the world, and that's true because they have nuclear weapons. But as far as the actual army, it's basically an embarrassment. And so because of that, I mean, so you got this little country who's and the other side of the thing is these guys talked about this, and it's really true. They'd have to tell me this. And as Ukraine is one of the most advanced armies technically in the world, they actually show the Americans how to do some stuff, specifically with drones. They're extremely advanced from a technical standpoint, which you wouldn't think for such a small country, but they are. So because of that, they're putting up a really good fight. It's basically a stalemate right now, and we're 4 years into this. The Russians have taken. Right now they hold about 10% of land on the east side of Ukraine, and everyone's floated is that if you settled the war and just gave them that, would Putin stop? And these guys are saying two or three of them are Ukrainian. They're saying, well, he might say he'll do that, but he won't. And that's exactly what happened with Putin and what was the name of the Munich agreement? Was it with Britain or France? I can't even remember. He violated it. He signed an agreement that said, I'm not going to bomb France, and then he bombed France. It's like, you can't, can this guy be trusted? This guy being Putin? I don't know. I don't think so. I think he's losing his mind. Well, also, he has nothing. He's 77. He's literally, you have to understand this, he's the richest single person in the world. Supposedly, he's worth about $1 trillion. All that money's stolen. He stole all of it. You got a guy worth about $1 trillion. Now, just compare that to the top 3 or 4 billionaires in the United States, or they would be the world too. I mean, just off the top of my head, you got Musk, Ellison, Bezos, maybe Bill Gates, maybe Warren Buffett. Those guys are each worth, depending on what the day is, literally about 250 billion, or a quarter of that. And they're estimating Putin's wealth, personal wealth, at $1 trillion. He's 77. He's got $1 trillion bucks. He's apparently, it's been rumored for a long time, his health is not good. Well, screw it. Let's bomb the world, you know? And that's dangerous because they have nuclear weapons. Now, there's first of all, they've been threatening to use small, I can't remember, it's called small tactical nuclear weapons, which are very, very small nuclear bombs, which you can use on the battlefield. But the problem with them is there's still some radiation from that. So people, in addition to blowing stuff up, I mean, they work similar to like a regular bomb, except they also emit radiation. So you have radiation sickness among the troops. Now, that's not good. I don't think technically when people talk about nuclear bombs, that's really not what they're talking about, but they're still actually nuclear. So they put out a radiation field. This whole thing's it's terrible. Of course, nobody's talking about this. You know, we're talking about Jimmy fucking Kimmel. I mean, it's freaking amazing. You know, we're talking about a TV host is burning up and Charlie Kirk, like bless his heart. I mean, he's gone. He's been killed, and that guy, we were talking with Don. That guy, he does not know what he unleashed. You know, if he thought he was getting rid of somebody, he did the opposite. So, this is what the world's come to. Meanwhile, also in Britain, a guy named, oh geez, I did not actually write his name down. It's a Don Willis, criminologist, thinks he has definitively figured out now who Jack the Ripper was after 135 years. And he did it with DNA and also copious going through a bunch of really, really finely obscure public records in London. And the guy, it turns out it's Polish barber Aaron Kominski, who was in his 20s at the time. And he was one of the major suspects at the time, too, but they can never prove it. But this guy, I'm sorry, I should have written down his name. Is it Wilson? He says that based on DNA at the crime scenes, which of course now, 20 years ago even, they couldn't do this. They could not take that sort of DNA that was 130 years old and process it, but now they can. They can also use really, really small amounts of DNA, and basically they replicate it for testing purposes. So, I mean, this is all stuff that even though DNA evidence has been around for about 35 years now, maybe 40 even, only in the last 15 or 20 could you do some of this advanced stuff. So he says they figure that out. Aaron Kominski is the guy. He was from Poland. He was a barber in London. And he was, while during the murders were happening, he was in his mid-20s, 24 to 26, I think. So, and then in San Antonio, the police hired a psychic to help them find a missing woman, and they found her. The psychic found her. The psychic's name is Vic Andrea, and the woman who's missing is Caitlin Vara. And yes, she was dead, but they found her remains, and they found it where the psychic said they would find it. So yeah, I mean, you tell me now. I mean, these stories make the news regularly. I had some personal experience with somebody who actually did this. This happens too often now to think that this is chance. And I'll tell I get the same problem with the UFO evidence too. The vast majority of it's bullshit. The majority of people who say they can do this can't do it, but that doesn't mean nobody can do it. That's the problem, and so the whole thing gets muddied. I call it the National Enquirer system. Only half of it's true, so so because of that, nobody believes any of it. But no, half of it is true. So they found this woman. Unfortunately, passed away, but they found her. There was an article in Breitbart this afternoon, and I brought this up because I had lunch with a bunch of friends on Friday, and we were talking about this, about the fact it's called work slop, and what it is, it's AI generated documents. And what we were talking about at lunch, and a friend of mine, he's retired, but he's a book editor from a major publisher. And so he's a writer. He's very, very accomplished at that. And we were talking about AI writing. about the fact that I didn't want to use it, and no one else at the table wanted to use it either because it may be accurate, but it's boring. You got a machine writing. And so this article in Breitbart talks about what they're calling work slop, and that is highly professional AI generated reports for work that don't really have any content in them. So there's little or no actual factual information, and God knows you ask the IA to do a summary or ask for a judgment call on something. Oh my God, you're gonna get nothing. It's like this is going to be a problem, and I don't think there's going to be a AI solution for this anytime soon, because you're asking about basically to the AI to infuse its writing with personality and critical thinking, and the AI may be great at coming up with facts, but to make an analysis and or make a judgment, no, it can't do it. And so then what's the point? What's the point of turning in your report? Well, the point is it's highly professionally written. It's very, very cogently written. And so as an employee, you look good giving it to your employer. But people are saying that these things are already flooding American business, and it's because the amount of time needed to plow through them, and because there's virtually no content in any of them. And have you been on TikTok or even YouTube? My God, excuse me. I have a real problem with this. I love YouTube. I spend a couple hours on YouTube every night. It's basically replaced what years ago for me would have been mindless television watching. Now I'm a mindless YouTube scroller. But there's all sorts of things I'm interested in, like architecture and stuff like that. And my God, if I see another AI generated video, I'm going to start pulling my hair out. I don't need to do that. I mean, I can tell in 15 seconds and I just bail. That's all there. I mean, maybe I don't, I don't, I think it's to get to the point very quickly where the public, even the unsophisticated public, is going to be able to tell. The one thing especially that bothers me is what's called faceless AI videos. Those are videos that are narrated by an AI narrator, and they're basically just clips put together. Most of the clips are public domain or whatever. And so the AI reads a script, and the script is written by a real person. But the AI and the visuals are basically accompanying nonsense, and the AI can't pronounce stuff. So it reads fairly realistically. I mean, sometimes you have to get quite a ways into it to realize that it's a bot. But the point is, there's nothing in these videos. And a lot of people complain about the fact sometimes the titles of the videos have nothing to do with the video at all. Nothing. I'm constantly reading comments about the fact that people say AI generated, not matching the title or something like that. It's constant. And I think it's like I don't think you can get away from shit in any medium. People complain for years there's nothing on TV. Now there's 500 channels on television. The vast majority of it. Well, the thing is, I shouldn't say that. Someone's interested in virtually all of it. But the question is, how many people? That's the thing. Like, for example, my wife loves cooking shows. The irony of this is she's not really that into cooking. She does cook, but she's not into it. I'm into it. She's not. But she likes her cooking shows. And so, okay, I guess they make a profit doing that because the people watch. But how many? But then again, you get back to when I was growing up, we had 5 television channels. That was it. People understand it. And even so, Don Zorro was talking about this earlier about the fact that, like when Carson was on television, it was a completely different world. But one of the reasons was he had no competition. I mean, for a while there was Merv Griffin. That lasted about 4 or 5 years. At the very end, it was Arsenio Hall. And credit to Arsenio, even though I do not think he was a good talk show host, he's the only person who really ever successfully, or he came close to successfully competing with Carson. And that was because it was a generational thing at that point. I mean, Carson quit in 1992. When Carson quit, I think he was 67, I think. So Arsenio comes along. He's like 35. He's got the doghouse there. Bow, 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 wow, wow, wow. He's got Magic Johnson coming on and these basketball players. and Bill Clinton comes out and plays his facts, and it's a different world. So why I brought that up because about the fact that there's always been shit on TV, but now there's shit on YouTube. But there's so much stuff that if you know how to sift through it, you can find a lot of stuff that interests you. I bet your interests aren't the same as mine. So but I bet you can find something. But anyway, now that's gotten to work documents too. That's where it is. All right, I'm going to end with this tonight about the fact that this is kind of interesting. So people say, well, if the aliens come here from other planets or from extraterrestrials or interdimensionals or whatever they are, will we even be able to communicate with them? Scientists are now starting to think that whales, orca and humpback whales, are trying to communicate with humans by blowing bubbles. I know that I'm not joking about this. It sounds like a joke, but I'm not. In other words, they think the whales are making a concerted attempt to communicate with us, and the language they're using involves bubbles. But the thing is, if you're going to now, it's been rumored for years that octopuses, octopi, the word is octopi. That's the word. Rode here on a meteor or something like that, because octopi have completely different DNA than any other species on Earth. It's really, really weird. And the other thing is, and I'm watching Richard Dolan on a UFO convention, a symposium video just last night, actually, when he was talking about that, because when at the first blush, you'd think, well, there's no way ET's going to look anywhere near like us. But if you stop and think about it, after a while, you stop and think, well, okay, the planets are roughly the same. As if they're oxygen breathing beings, it's kind of evolutionarily logic that humans, as far as 2 legs, 2 arms, fingers, opposing thumbs, brains on the top of your being, the top of your body. It's kind of the logical way to arrange stuff. It's kind of the best way in terms of from an evolutionary standpoint. And because of that, there's a good possibility that a lot of extraterrestrials do look like us, or more or less. I mean, in fact, the thing that he was talking about is that which some people still have a hard time wrapping their head around, that supposedly there's a couple species of extraterrestrials that look exactly like us. The Nordics apparently basically look like people from Sweden, like humans from Sweden. I mean, supposedly they look. Matter of fact, Charles Hall, the guy who wrote the book Millennium Hospitality, who said he spent 2 years with the tall whites at the Nellis Air Force Base in the 1960s. It's a highly controversial story, but man, he's either telling the truth or he's one of the best novelists who ever lived, one or the other. Because, I mean, the detail involved is just incredible. But he said that he met some of the Nordic aliens, and other than the fact they have 24 teeth instead of 32 like us, and he said their teeth regenerate after they lose one, even as after they're adults, and ours do not. Other than that, they look exactly like humans. And he said he found this out about the teeth thing because of dentists. All right, the story is, I have no idea if any of this is true. None. The story is, a lot of these people landed in Wisconsin, believe it or not, of all places, and that the dentists in Madison have reported this, that some of them have had quite a few patients who only have 24 teeth, and that their teeth grow back. He's a dentist. I've actually thought about doing a documentary on this, because I'm in Minneapolis. I'm relatively close to Madison, Wisconsin, and that part of the country. About going down there and see if I can find any dentists to talk about this. But and of course, if I can't, then it's obvious all bullshit. That's the other thing too. It'd be nice to kind of see if it was true or not. But any rate, the idea is that there would be a lot of extraterrestrials that do look more or less like us, like the gray aliens. They still have 2 legs and 2 arms and fingers, supposedly. Maybe it's supposedly only 4 instead of 5, or 3 instead of 4, if you don't count the thumbs. But then you get to like sea creatures, or people that aren't breathing oxygen. I mean, because of the way chemistry works, the two obvious forms of chemistry, there would be either carbon-based life forms like us, or silicon-based life forms. And so for a silicon-based life form, their version of what would be our version of water would be ammonia, believe it or not. And that, because it's just the way that how things are stacked in the universe, that those would be the two prominent things. Now, we couldn't survive in the atmosphere of a silicon-based being, but if you're talking about a water-based being like an octopus, is an octopus from another planet? It's really, really freaking weird. All right, the reason I all got into this is that the point is, supposedly DNA is universal, or a form of it. Like, there's been rumored for years that the Roswell aliens that they recovered from the Roswell crashes, that their DNA, they only have 3 strands of DNA. We have 4. That's supposedly, but it's still DNA. It's still the same system, you know. So you look at a being like a octopus. It still has DNA, but it's really, really weird. It doesn't match anything else on the planet. So did it ride in on a meteor? Was it left behind by somebody coming here? Also, octopi are supposedly very, very smart, very intelligent. So now we have whales who they think the whales are attempting to communicate with our species with these bubbles, and they're scientists are trying to figure it out. It's mind blowing in a way. You stop and think about it. And we know dolphins are almost as smart as humans. So, and they have a language of their own, but we've never cracked it. I don't think with any other than maybe a few words, with any alacrity at all. Anyway, it's a strange world we live in, and we're talking about Jimmy Kimmel. Okay, I want to thank Don ZORRO for joining us tonight. Tomorrow night, Eric Weir, financial analyst, entrepreneur. We got a bunch of questions for him. He's going to tell you about how you can get wealthy, and I'm pro-wealthy. I'm pro-wealth. I want to tell you that right now. And Wednesday, Mandy Gunasekera, former Trump administration official, and she's an author too. She's a pretty cool woman. So she's our guest for Wednesday. And once again, I should know by tomorrow night whether we're doing a show on Thursday or not. I simply do not know yet. So thanks for watching, everybody. I want to appreciate it. You make this show possible. You know that, right? I hope you do. Good night, Uncle Donnie, wherever you are. And good night to you, wherever you may be. We'll see you tomorrow night, everybody. Take care.